Hey guys, welcome today to Dr. Kim Live. Today we're going to talk about drifting apart. It can happen in any marriage, and drifting apart begins with distractions. So, what are the distractions in your life, and how are they affecting your marriage? We're going to talk about that when we come back. Thanks for joining us today. I'm so glad to have you with us. I'm Dr. Kim. This is Dr. Kim Live. We do this every week on YouTube and then on Facebook, and we have some exciting things coming up even in the future on this kind of stuff. So it is really good stuff. And so today we're going to talk about distractions in your marriage. Before we get into that, I want to take just a second. I think I've talked about it every week, but I still want to talk about it one more time, or probably a lot of times. That's the Not Me movement. For those of you who don't know what that is, in August we did a Man Week of Awesome Marriage. One of the focuses there was for men to stand up, to be the men God created them to be the husbands, the fathers, to not look at porn, to not do things to defame women in any way, and to take that pledge and to post the hashtag Not Me. We're seeing it done many places around the world, actually, and so we would encourage you, if you're a guy, to go on our website, look at hashtag Not Me, take the pledge, and join us in this. We want every man. Can you imagine what would happen if every single man chose to take that pledge? All right. Okay, so today we're going to talk about distractions, how they affect your marriage, how they can make you feel like you're drifting apart. What are the distractions in your life right now? If you had to list the distractions, what are like the three biggest distractions? What takes your time? What takes your energy? What takes you away from maybe the things that you would say, if you made a list, are the most important things in your life, like God, your spouse, your marriage, your family, those kind of things. So a lot of the things I think that we struggle with and that cause problems are things that are just we wouldn't put them in a bad category. We're going to talk about work. We talk about parenting. We talk about exercise. We talk about the church. We talk about hobbies. We talk about sports. We talk about video games, and there's probably plus or minus there we'll talk a little bit more about. But think about those distractions. Think about those things that we would all say, those are pretty good things. Those are things that most of us have in our lives and probably would want in our lives. But how do they affect your marriage? Where does it get out of balance? And that's what I want you to take time and help you think through that today, when that gets out of balance, and when it does, how to know it, and then what to do about it. So there are the good distractions and there's bad distractions. So we've kind of listed a lot of the things that most of us consider good distractions. So what are the bad distractions? Well, obviously alcohol abuse, drugs, some of the extreme things, extreme gambling, anything good that can turn bad. And that's where we probably put video games. Video games of themselves, are they bad? Maybe there's some that are, sure. But in general, are they? It's when they crowd in on the other things that should be most important that gets problems. So how do we keep those bad things out of our marriage? And then how do we keep the good things, the good distractions, in check? So first, as you think about that, as I went through that list of bad distractions, did any of them hit home? Are any of those that you're dealing with or your spouse is dealing with? Or maybe there's something else that you just consider, man, this is a distraction in my marriage. This is something that's not good for me. It's not good for my marriage. And so I need to do something about that. So I think as we all look at those distractions that take us away, what do we need to do to get rid of them? What do we need to do to put our focus back on the things that God says are most important in our life? And so think about those, and then how would you handle that? And for some of you, it may mean taking that next step to get help, to go to counselor, to talk to a drug and alcohol counselor, to go to marriage counseling, to end a relationship, to put a time limit on your video games. Whatever that is that's taking away, what's the first step you can take that's going to make a difference for you and make a difference for your marriage? So I think for all of us, we're all busy. We talk about that all the time with Awesome Marriage. We all have distractions in our lives that we have to deal with. And I'm going to move this mic just a little closer. Whoops. Okay, maybe that'll help a little bit. A lot of it is just about balancing those distractions in our life. Not letting something that is less important bump out something that is more important. So think of one thing that I like to do is kind of think of my life as this pie chart, and just different sections of my life are these little pie-shaped pieces all the way around. And so in my life, there's work that I do every day. There's sleep, which I need to do. There is time with God. There's time with Nancy. There's time with family. I like to work out every day. I like to have time to study and to read every day. I like to have time to just kick back and relax and, watch some Netflix or watch something on TV or something like that I like. And so when I put all those together, what it helps me in that pie is see what's crowding out. Something might be crowding out something that I really feel is important and something less important. So, for example, if my priorities really are God, spouse, time with family, then those things need to be in my life. They need to be on my pie chart. And if that means that one day I don't work out because I need to spend extra time with Nancy, that's what I need to do. If it means that I don't get to read as much as I want to because I'm maybe reading a book that I'm really interested in, but it's crowding into my time with God, then I need to make an adjustment there. And so I think for me, it helps me just to kind of, because I'm so visual, it helps me to see what that pie chart is in my life. What are the pieces? How much time are they taking up? And is there the things that I really consider the most important things? And all these good distractions, how can I widen that piece of pie just a little bit so I can spend more time there with my priorities? So the other thing I think is it's important for us to remember, because as we talked about, there's so many of our distractions that most of us label are not bad, but are they getting in the way of your marriage? Are they driving you away from your spouse? And think about this. Think about the distractions in your life today that weren't there at the beginning of your marriage. Now, obviously, for most of it, it's going to be kids or grandkids because they weren't there at day one for most of us. So, but what are other things in your life? Have you put things in your life that are distractions that take away from your marriage that weren't there before, and that really in the big picture maybe aren't that important, even though they're not something that's bad? So the other thing that has really helped me as you kind of think about the distractions and stuff, and this helped me a lot, is the fact that anytime I say yes to one thing, I'm saying no to something else. And so in what I try to look at when I say yes to something, am I saying yes to my marriage? So if I agree to speak somewhere, how's that going to affect Nancy? How's it going to affect other things that I think are important? And there are times that I will say no because they will, even though they're not bad, they're going to distract me from the things that are most important to me. So it's all about balance. So hopefully that gives you things to think about and hopefully you'll have some questions. We're going to look at this week's one thing, which is the foundation that your marriage needs. And here we go. So do you and your spouse have fun together? Often in the counseling room, I'll ask a couple, what do they do for fun? And more often than not, I get these blank stares back. So what would you say if I ask you that question? The first part of my premise is that every couple at one time or another in the relationship had fun together. If they didn't, they probably would have never gotten married. The rest of my premise is that life gets in the way of having fun. Having fun together becomes less a priority as careers and kids and other things fight for our time and our attention. But I think having fun together should be a priority in marriage. Couples need to have fun together. What'd you do for fun when you're dating or in the early part of your marriage? What sounds fun to you to do as a couple today? Setting aside time each week with no agenda other than having fun together can supercharge your marriage. So your one thing today, decide on a fun thing to do this week and then do it. Well, I don't know if you guys got to see that or not. To me, it was like a black screen with just audio. So I am sorry about that. All right, but what are the things that you can do to make your marriage better? And so the one thing is something that comes out. It's an email. It's onething.email. You can sign up. You'll get an email from me every day, Monday through Friday. One simple thing you can do each day for your marriage. And there's also things in there that help your marriage grow, that help you focus more on each other, maybe kind of kickstart some areas of your marriage that just need a little bit of kickstart at some point or the other. So I'd love you to do that. You can also pick them up on YouTube, as we have 3 vlogs, YouTube, One Thing, podcast, video, calm down and get this right. 3 days a week, and they're different than the ones you get in the email. So, if you want to really get after it, you can do 5 plus. You can do 8 things a week that are going to make your marriage better. I guarantee you, if you did that every day for 3 months, can you imagine? I mean, you would definitely be on the way or there with your awesome marriage. All right, a couple of questions. We get your questions, and here we go. How do I let my husband know I don't feel like a priority without him thinking I'm nagging him? Yeah, that's such a good question, because I think a lot of times we get into that. We don't feel like we're a priority. And then how do we communicate that to our husband? How do we do that where they just take us serious? And so a couple of things I would suggest in this situation. I would say first, I think, try to approach your husband and say, hey, there's something I want to talk to you about. Can we set aside a time today, tomorrow, in the next couple of days where we could just talk about something that I really want to talk to you about? Hopefully your husband will respond to that. And then in that you can say, I don't feel like I'm a priority. And you may feel that I would say something like that. You may feel that, and you may tell other people that, but these are this is what my love language is. These are some things that I need from you, and it would really make a difference for me if we could talk about doing those. And I want to do things for you too. And so I think, again, we always talk about doing things as a team. So if you're approaching your spouse with something, it's not like, you need to change, you need to do this, all that kind of stuff. No, it's like, I'm going to do my part. I'd love for you to do your part. Can we work on this together? The problem's out here. I don't feel like a priority. And if I don't, you may not feel like you're a priority either. What can we do? How can we address that together as a couple? And that's the approach you want to take. The other thing, if things don't work there and you get bogged down, I would say go to counseling. Find you a good Christian counselor. Hopefully your spouse will go with you. It's okay if you start by yourself, and then hopefully your spouse will join you. But I think for you, instead of just fuming about it or feeling sad about it, it's taking an action step. Put it on the table with your spouse. See how your spouse responds, and then take the next step after that. Hopefully that's helpful for you. All right, I think we had another question here, if I can find it. We have 3 kids under the age of 7. How do we find balance? It seems everything is all about the kids. I can only imagine how that is when you've got 3 kids like that. So what I would say is, know one, that you're in a season, and that season's not going to last forever. Your kids are going to get older. They're going to get more independent. There's going to be times when they are going to be away from home some because they're spending the night or doing activities, other things like this. So realize that you just really are in that season. And so I think for you and your spouse to sit down and say, how much time do we need? Because I'm thinking you're not getting enough time for just the 2 of you. How can we do that? So do we decide to be proactive about having a babysitter? Do we proactive about asking grandparents, or if they're in the area, or another couple that would keep your kids for a night and you keep theirs for a night, so you can begin to build those times in. The other thing I've heard couples do, and I know for some of us after a long day we're tired, but it's still being intentional about time you spend together even when you're tired. And so there were times that, when our kids were little, that I know we'd get in bed at night and we'd be tired. And, I learned that because when my head hits the pillow, I'm out. And so Nancy would say, this is our time. This is the only time we've had today to talk. And so for me, I had to sit up in bed, because if I laid down and I was asleep, that never worked at all when we were trying to communicate about things. Ever. Probably never would work. And so finding that time, or making that sacrifice at that time. And again, knowing that's for a season. It's not like you're going to have to stay up when you're tired the rest of your life together as a couple. But again, being intentional in these difficult times, or when you're pressed for time, is going to pay off big time as you have more time, and then you continue to connect, and as you have more time, you can just add that into the mix. So I hope that helps a lot. One of the things we talk about a lot is our YouVersion plans. And the one we have this week is, whoops, that's not what we want, is it? That was not what I wanted up at all. Okay, thanks. So do you and your spouse have fun together? Often in the counseling room, I'll ask a couple, what do they do for fun? And more often than not, I get these blank stares back. So what would you say if I ask you that question? The first part of my premise is that every couple at one time or another in the relationship had fun together. If they didn't, they probably would have never gotten married. The rest of my premise is that life gets in the way of having fun. Having fun together becomes less a priority as careers and kids and other things fight for our time and our attention. But I think having fun together should be a priority in marriage. Couples need to have fun together. What'd you do for fun when you're dating or in the early part of your marriage? What sounds fun to you to do as a couple today? Okay, I don't know how that got up, but we've already listened to that once. We're not going to listen to it again, right? Okay, so the reading plan on YouVersion this week is Distractions in Marriage. You can find that on the YouVersion Bible app. You can, as you search for plans, you can put also marriage. You can put distractions in your marriage. You can put Dr. Kim. Any of those will help you get the plans that we have there. As we're talking about distractions this week, this would be a great one for you guys to pick up on. All right. Distractions in your marriage on YouVersion. So let's see. Let me see if we have a clip here from that plan. See if the video comes up. If it doesn't, I'll cut it off. Distractions in a marriage can be anything that takes time and energy away from the marriage relationship. Work, volunteering, church, sports, friends, kids, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, pornography, money, shopping, working out. The list could go on and on. Some of these obviously are bad for us. They're dangerous and they can destroy marriages. But sometimes the most dangerous ones are the ones we would consider as good things in our lives. We may even be spending time helping others. These become dangerous when they take the focus off our marriages and onto them at the expense of our marriages. They can deceive us because they're good. For example, church is great, but if I spend all my time there and it keeps me from spending time with Nancy, my marriage is eventually going to suffer. The same is true with any of the other things that are on our list. You know, in counseling, I often hear this from couples. Our first years were really good, and then we just began to drift apart. Drifting apart can happen in any marriage, and it usually begins with distractions. Building an awesome marriage is often about balancing the distractions of your life. If you do this well, you move your marriage forward. And if you don't, your marriage can really, literally crash and burn. Be aware of the distractions in your marriage and learn together to balance them well. As you look at these distractions in your lives, think about how they're affecting your marriage. Let me give you one more thought. Anytime you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And sadly, it is far too easy to say no to your marriage. Okay, the distractions in your marriage, that was just kind of an example of what happens on our Bible apps. There'll be a video, there'll be then some text that I kind of break that down or maybe give some other ideas. Then there'll be some next steps for you to do. And so hope you do that, hope you enjoy that on our YouVersion Bible plans. All right, thank you for all of you guys for joining us live today. I'm excited. Elizabeth gives a question, and let's answer that. My husband and I are currently in the process of moving to another state. What advice do you have on starting over together? What a great question. And I think that's probably a question that a lot of couples today face because a lot of couples are mobile and move around and change jobs. And so a lot of times that means you're changing cities and things like that. I think the first thing you want to do when you move is establish yourself, just the two of you. Find the place that you're going to live, make it comfortable for the two of you, make it your home, because that's the place that you guys together are going to spend a lot of the time you have together. The second thing I would say is find a church that you're comfortable, the church that you where you could feel like, hey, we could be at home here, a church where we could get involved. That way you can begin to build some community. But obviously you can meet your neighbors and people that live around you. If you're in an apartment, people live in apartments next to you. But I think so a lot of times at church and finding that group that has common values, common beliefs with you, the faith that you have that you can share with each other is really important to begin with that. And then I think just those two, the community, the church, those kind of things, and then just being active in the community some. Learn about the community, get out and do things, try things, see what you like about that community. But the whole idea is to do those things together, to see this as not a problem it's something that you guys are going to address together. We're going to make this our home. How do we do that, and what are the next steps? And then listen to each other. Maybe you each write down 3 things you'd like to do in this new community, or when you move. And then you've got each other's list, and you begin to do those things. And so look at it as an adventure. It's always hard a lot of times to leave where you've been to go to somewhere new. But I think, your moving does not surprise God. He's going with you. He's going to be there, and he's going to have answers for you. So I hope that helps. All right, another question we have. My husband travels for work. When he is home, he's exhausted. His work is a distraction, even when he's at home. So I guess what you're saying is your husband maybe travels during the week, comes home the weekend, sleeps all weekend. And so work, whether he's there or at home, it's like that's all he's doing, one way or the other, being affected by work or being at work. Again, I think it's something you got to get on the table and talk about. And for him to know that that's important to you, I think, and it's not in a nagging way. It's continuing to say, hey, I want more of our marriage we're getting right now. I want more of you. I married you. I want to spend time with you. I love you. I care for you. And we've just got in this pattern, this kind of rut, and I need it to be different. And so then you begin to build some things in. And so maybe it's when he's traveling, you communicate more. Maybe you do more FaceTime. Maybe you do more funny texting to each other and things that keep you connected during the week. And then on the weekend, maybe he does need to rest a lot. Great. But say, okay, each weekend can we have a date? It could be lunch, breakfast, dinner, whatever you choose, and let's do that every week. And let's try to find time every day for just to spend time together. Again, approaching it like that, letting him know you need him, want him, desire to spend time with them. Hopefully that's going to pique some interest in him, and he wants the same thing too. Okay? All right. So we're going to, each week we do a vlog on the Dr. Kim Show, and so this week's vlog is on the marriage killers.
Hey, glad you joined us today. We're going to talk about the marriage killer that nobody sees coming. Point number 1. We all know that porn and infidelity and addiction issues can kill a marriage. These are the things that many of us look out for. But more often than not, the reason that I see couples in the counseling room started long before any of these things happened. It was because of complacency. Point number 2, the biggest marriage killer is the one that no one sees coming because it sneaks up on you. It's that complacency. It just begins to happen. Point number 3, it's when you aren't working on and investing in your marriage, that's when things get dangerous. You just can't build up enough equity. You've got to continue to pour in over and over, day after day. Point number 4, your marriage is going to experience the most life when you're being proactive, you're being intentional in your marriage relationship. Plus, it makes it a lot more fun. Point 5, relationships die when you neglect them. Think about that. It's true, isn't it? Friendships, same is true with marriages. Point number 6, so don't become complacent in your marriage. Don't give up working on it. Don't check out. Stay focused and run the course that God has set before you. He's going to do everything you allow him to do to give you an awesome marriage. You do your part. Don't be complacent. Get in the race. Go for it.
That was helpful. You can get all of our vlogs right here on YouTube. There's new ones every single week, and they're just short points like that to just kind of help you just jumpstart your marriage. Everything we do at Awesome Marriage is try to help you make your marriage better with little things you can do every single day. All right, a couple of questions to close out today. We agree that our marriage is out of balance. What can we do to change things? Big step right there already that you see it's out of balance. What I would do, what I talked about earlier, doing the pie chart or maybe listing the things that are that you do, like with your day, from sleep to work to family to whatever it is, and the number of hours you do that. I like doing the pie chart because it's such a good visual like that. And then each one of you do your own, and then take a look at each other's and say, where's our marriage slice in this? And how can we both enlarge that marriage slice so we get more balance, so we spend more time with each other? And also looking at that, are there things, do you have pie slices in there that really are distractions that you don't need in your life. And maybe you just take some of those out. The idea then is to sit down together to begin to attack this problem and to find ways to spend more time together to grow your marriage. All right, last one. My husband spends a lot of time on video games. He says he needs them to wind down, but it's taking the place of time we used to spend together. How can I approach that? Okay, I think Fortnite's a great game. I think a lot of people and a lot of us are spending too much time on it. So it goes back to finding balance. It goes back to saying, hey, I don't mind you playing video games. But it's eaten into our marriage. Can you limit it? Can I help you in this in any way? Can we find times to do this when it doesn't interfere with family or things we're trying to do here? Again, I think it's just getting the problem on the table, asking your spouse to come alongside you and working on the problem together. And if you need counseling, find a good Christian counselor and take that step. Jay, I thank you for your input today. I talked about some of your distractions that you put, job change, finances. Absolutely, those are things that can distract us. When finances are tight, it kind of seems to bleed all over everything. It's always one of the top things that's listed in every list that comes out about problems couples have in marriage. So those are distractions that we have to deal with. And then the key is, how do we deal with that together? So we can, you can grow your marriage through those difficult times, or you can let it pull you apart. The idea is, how do we grow together? How do we get on the same page? How do we work together as a team to accomplish making our finances better, to do what we need to do in a job change for both of us to make the adjustments we need, those kind of things. Okay, hope that's helpful today as we've talked about all the stuff of distractions in marriage. Next week, we're going to focus on husbands. I got 3 questions for husbands, and so we're going to look at those. And hope you guys enjoy that as we do that next week.